This podcast is part of the Treksphere Network.
To find more Star Trek-related content, visit Treksphere.com.
This Measure of an Episode, where we talk about Picard. I'm Paul.
I'm Jonathan. This is Measure of an Episode, Picard Edition, Season 2 Edition, Episode 7 Addition. Why they waited till Episode 7 to do this episode, I don't know.
It's called Monsters, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Monsters.
Are we going to get it right this time? It's not going to be Munsters, and we're wondering why they named it after cheese. Or Munsters, and wonder why they named it after a 60s dead TV series.
No, it's still on. It's just deep cable.
Channel Ocho. Yeah.
Well, let me read the blurb, and then we can talk about the intro that we aren't going to do.
Okay.
Talon ventures inside Picard's subconscious mind to help wake him from a coma and face both his darkest secrets and deepest fears. Seven and Raffi go in search of Jurati, whom they fear. Oh, yeah. So here's the problem. There's not a period. There's more to the blurb. I just couldn't see it because it had been truncated by Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And I was too lazy to click on it.
Okay.
So Seven and Raffi go in search of Jurati, whom they fear. It's probably like who they fear has been taken over assimilated by the Borg Queen.
Right.
That's probably what it says.
Yeah.
So we were going to do an intro. Normally we do an intro that in some way resembles the plot line of this particular episode. Like we take a TV show from the 80s normally, sometimes the 70s, sometimes the 90s.
Yeah. I mean, there's only been 6 episodes, so.
Right, yeah.
And also, not a lot of series have opening narration. Ones that you would think have like some kind of synopsis, they don't. So.
Well, this one, we were going to do Saved by the Bell lyrics to the song that everybody knows, if you're in our age range, more or less, because there is an awesome fan theory that basically Zach is concocting all of these things that happen in the show. That it's just the whimsical daydreams of an introvert. And all these things are kind of embedded into the lyrics of the song, and also the idea that he can kind of stop time and talk to the camera. Like everything is just kind of happening in his head.
Right. And that's a perfect comparison to this episode.
Yeah, it's exactly what's happening in this episode.
And my position was that this was very much the series Once Upon a Time, where it's fairy tales brought to life, monsters are real, but we're not really worried about that fun aspect. We're more worried about the crazy relationship drama that happens between all these characters and why they're keeping secrets from each other and why they're only providing some information but not all of it. So,
yeah, why are we worried about that? Or what? We're not, because we don't care anymore. We're dead inside.
Well, and also it's just be open with each other. And I mean, thankfully, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but Rios actually was with the Doctor, but, just kind of punched the Prime Directive and timeline integrity butterfly effect in the face as he's
No real reason. Yeah. No real reason.
Nope.
He could have kept her out of there.
Yeah.
There's something he could have said that would have kept her out of there.
I mean,
maybe. I don't know.
Just showing her the transporter was enough. Like, right. I have this technology. Yeah. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves. Are we, though? Like,
Are we? Yeah, well, so here's what happened at the beginning. I took a very big risk, Jonathan.
Okay.
Huge risk. And I skipped the recap.
Bold move.
I was going in blind. No idea what was going to be happening.
So confused. Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Watching
Hasn't
this
been that long.
Weekly. Yeah, right?
Also, what happens before doesn't seem to matter in what happens in the latter episodes, right?
Right.
It doesn't seem to really connect in any way.
It's just kind of right. Here's what's been going on. All right, now you remember. Here's the new episode. Like nothing in the recap is like this is important for what's happening this episode, other than this is the series so far.
Right.
Yeah.
And it makes no sense. starting to become ridiculous.
Yeah.
Farcical. But the first thing I wrote down in my notes, I don't know how to segue to this. I'm just going to say what I just said.
Okay.
So they need to mind meld with Picard to go in. Because Talon or Laris, whoever, they have to figure out what's going on.
Right.
Like there's some sort of battle happening in the mind, in the confines of Picard's mind. And so everybody forgot They forgot or didn't tell whoever wrote this episode that Picard is an android, because Laris or whatever, Talon, puts on a mid-2000s Bluetooth headset and connects to Picard, who's an android, to do a mind meld. And I guess they did a mind meld in the last season between a human and an android.
Right. And it is canon because Spock did it with a straight up machine in the original series. So it can be done. But also, again, like, even though he is an android, it is supposed to be, for all intents and purposes, indistinguishable from a real human.
Right. But something being indistinguishable doesn't mean the inner workings of it are the same.
Right. Which is fair. But
so it seems like just sort of irresponsible writing.
She's hacking into the Matrix. That's basically all this is.
Right. I would be fine with that if they connected like a USB cable to Picard, like in his asshole or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, like what he did with Girardi, just stab him in the neck.
And poke around in there. Eventually it'll work. It's like those asymmetrical USB things where you try and plug it in, it's the wrong side, just flip it over.
Just flip him over.
It'll eventually work, no matter how much damage you do.
Right.
So yeah, it seemed a tenuous premise at best, but I guess it works. Maybe, I guess the dreams of an android might be much better ordered than the dreams of a human. And so that's why it seems like more of a movie that she gets beamed into than...
Yeah.
Because very rarely, this whole conceit of dreams that film and television does, where it's actually like a full experience of an event in your life, and not just little pockets of memories that kind of come to the surface and then go back down. Like, that's why I hate anything in books or movies, anything where it's a dream, I hate.
Well, but it's that kind of point. Like, in this dream, it happens sequentially, and there is kind of a monster in it, but apparently that was presented by young Jean-Luc, because Talon was like, you want to stay here. You're doing this to me. But yeah, just to speak to your point, like, it's told sequentially and in a way where, like, you could be dropped into it.
Right.
She should have had a moment where, like, she just jumped into another area because the character had switched scenes for some reason. That's kind of the dream sequence. Do you have anything else you want to say about the dream sequence?
Well, it just didn't make sense to me because they're trying to withhold this information about what happened to his mom.
So no?
And... I'm trying to pad out this episode. We had a very short one last time.
Well, I understand, but 45 minutes of this was what you're about to say. Like, what are we going to talk about? Go for it.
What I don't like is that they're withholding information seemingly artificially.
Right.
There's no reason that he wouldn't come clean at this point, considering the stakes.
Yeah, but it just seemed kind of like Picard wasn't fully realizing it until Talon was in there and saying, like, you need to confront this man who, I think it's kind of a fun coincidence that you've been talking about Cylons this whole time, and this guy is from BSG.
Is that the guy?
Yeah,
because I was going to say Picard's dad looks a lot like Julian Bashir.
No,
I actually thought it was Julian Bashir, whoever plays Julian Bashir.
Right? No, it's not. It's not Bashir.
So it is the guy from Battles.
Yeah,
but it looks like him, right?
Right.
Looks like him.
It took her being there to kind of be like, you need to, and also him kind of having that conversation with his dad for him to realize that his mom genuinely had a psychological condition that made her think that people were chasing after her, and not that there were genuine monsters from his childhood.
Well, that's the information we get from this episode, but they end this episode, or at least that sequence, with there being something else in there.
Right. Yeah. She's like, but that's not the whole story, is it? Yeah.
Oh, this is so lost.
So lost.
And I don't buy that this is Picard. Don't do it. Oh, you did it.
No, like, at that moment, like, if you open that door, we'll all die. Why?
No, zoom in. Let's see more about his past.
Why not just say, we are underwater. If you open it, we will be crushed.
You probably can't open it. Right. It's unopenable.
Just start building up that trauma. You're too weak. You've always been weak. Anyway, but yeah.
But anyway, I don't buy this whole idea that Picard is also repressing it and doesn't realize it, because when Guinan asks him point blank, why don't you open up to people? And he just sits there. It's not like, I don't have anything to open up about. I'm perfectly normal. Right? He doesn't say anything. He's obviously holding something back.
Yeah. Well, and what I don't like about this, I think that it's an excellent drama that they can introduce that kind of defines him as a character, but just doesn't. It's not something that had to be like exposed for us to know him in the original like 7 seasons. You know, like it's not as though. Yes, they are adding this, but it's not like, oh, here's this thing that I never told you about. If they hadn't projected it so much in like the first 6 episodes.
Well, and it really hasn't had much of a effect on the plot either.
No, it's just every time they mention something about him being reserved, you know, like this should have been more. I feel like it should have been more directed toward his brother, because Generations hinted on that, you know, about like how and also Family, the episode The Next Generation, that was kind of a follow-up to The Best of Both Worlds, where he goes back to see his brother and then his brother dies in Generations. Like, this episode should have been more about their relationship when they were younger, and not about his mother. Maybe how his mother can like related to the relationship he had with his brother, but not solely about his mom.
Also, the brother is surprisingly absent
Yes.
in all of his flashbacks.
Yes.
So it's feeling a lot like they just don't know.
Right.
The writers just don't have they have a cursory knowledge of Next Gen, and that's it.
Yeah.
Oh, Guinan is the bartender. Well, we'll make her a bartender in this one too, because she's the bartender.
Yeah.
By the way, I heard this in a theory by somebody else, which I didn't even consider, was that she's always had a bar called 10 Forward and came up with the name for the bar on the Enterprise and named it 10 Forward. Like, that's why in the past her bar is called 10 Forward. It's so dumb. Like, I guess that makes more sense in the context of the writers don't know what they're talking about.
What makes more sense to me, just hearing you talk about temporal, because we didn't talk about that last time, is that being an Aurelian? What is she?
Alorian.
Alorian. Okay. Being an Alorian, like, and having this connection to time in general, she knows that 10 Forward is going to be an important place for her. And so when she established this bar, like, she decided to name it 10 because it happened to be on Forward Street, you know? And so she knew 10 Forward was going to be important for her in some way. And so when she opened this bar on Forward Street, she's like, oh, I'll just name it 10 because maybe this is where 10 Forward happens. And then she wound up being a bartender on Enterprise, and they said, your bar is in 10 Forward. And she was like, oh, maybe that's it.
Well, I guess that's more interesting. I like that a lot better.
Right.
That's not what happened.
I mean, maybe it is.
That's
we
not
don't
what
know.
they did.
That's me doing heavy lifting, but it's entirely
Do you
possible.
think that's what happened?
No, I don't. I think that they were like, oh, wouldn't this be funny? Or wouldn't this be a nice little nod?
Right.
But
this is for all the nerds out there.
yeah. But hey, I don't think it's been out there. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Now, you heard it here first, folks.
Right.
And last.
The Measure of an Episode exclusive. Yeah.
Right. So there's this scene. Seven and Rafi go back to the main ship. And they have to go and find... They're trying to find Girardi. And this is the most irresponsible writing of the whole show.
Where Rafi's talking about how they're not important? Or, yeah, how they're the most important people? Or what?
No.
Because that irritated me.
The whole scene irritates me. But the part where they realize that the ship has been locked out by a Borg algorithm. It's like, I recognize it. And that's all you needed.
Right.
For the button on the scene. Because we're all not stupid people, and we can do the math of, well, that sucks because that means we don't have control over our technology. And also, the Borg Queen is gone. She's seemingly still alive. And, oh, by the way, she's our ticket home out of this.
Right.
We could do that math. Instead, they make sure to say all of those things in conversation back and forth to us.
Mm-hmm.
It's so the audience are idiots type of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and just this whole scene, like, yes, that part having to be explained, and then Raffi and Seven, like I said, like they have not been the most interesting couple. They've been super irritating, especially Raffi. And then, I mean, yes, everybody is a hero in their own story, but for her to explicitly say they're the side characters, we're the only interesting ones, like that was so irritating to me.
Well, it was like meta. It was an attempt at being meta to refer to yourselves in the movie.
Right. But if there was anything interesting about them, it was like they were defying the, yeah, we know you don't like us, but you're wrong for not liking us.
Right. They were leaning into it.
Yeah.
If you think you hated us then, are you in for a treat?
Wait until we start acknowledging how you hate us. Then you're really going to hate us.
Right. And the same thing happens later, too, when Seven and Raffi figure out that the queen is assimilating Agnes with the whole thing about endorphins and how she broke the window and all that stuff. They just laid everything out for us as though we wouldn't have figured it out.
Right. Well, and how?
It's a big step. The whole endorphins thing that she's able to put that crap together. I guess she is Borg, or was Borg, so maybe she has some limited understanding of that stuff. I mean, she's not Borg. This body of hers is not Borg.
No, right. Well, but also,
never was.
How would she know that endorphins accelerate the process?
I mean, if I was to play devil's advocate, I would say that because she's been a Borg, at least she has them. She remembers.
Yes, right.
Right.
Yeah. It's fine. I'll take it. Yeah. But she doesn't have the implants, so like she would have to kind of have a vague memory of that experience.
It's starting to get annoying. Remember how excited I was with the second episode?
Yeah. I mean, we still have 3 more episodes, and the plot points are still intriguing. Like, I want to know how they're going to stop Jurati, how Jurati's going to stop the Borg Queen, how they are going to fix the timeline. Like, what's going to happen with Q? What's going to happen with Sung? Like, all of those things are interesting to me. I don't understand why, 2 of the 3 weren't addressed at all. And the third one was addressed only in, like, the last 5 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, I want to know, too. Like, I'm still in it.
Yeah.
But I'm becoming more and more resentful of Picard.
Right. So, Picard goes to hang out with Guinan. And it was kind of nice that, like, there wasn't any of there wasn't a lot of dialogue about the situation. It was just, can you help me? I don't know if this bottle like always has a liquid in it, or like if this is kind of we can only use this once, so I'll use it for you. But she tries to call the Q and the Q doesn't come, but instead this other guy comes, and this guy, again, because I do the research and you don't, this guy is actually from Voyager, where he was a temporal corrections officer.
Oh, so they were throwing something at us?
Maybe.
Like
it's the same actor.
I probably thought what everybody else was thinking, which was, he's going to be another Q.
That's
having some fun. That's what I was expecting. And I was half expecting, I wanted it to be Corbin Burnson, who was the Q who comes back in the episode where the other Q loses his powers. Mm-hmm. And then he gives him his powers back.
Oh, right. And, yeah. The dad from Psych. Right.
Yeah,
forgot about that.
That would have been fun if it was him.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of still can be. This whole sequence, it makes me wonder what's going on, because they seem very casual and very familiar with this whole beaming. They have video of Picard beaming in and out.
Right.
And wouldn't they just, if they were just regular FBI or law enforcement, wouldn't they just think, we've been pranked?
Yeah.
Right? They wouldn't think, there's an alien here.
Right.
or something.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And he accidentally drops his communicator, of course.
Oh, I didn't think it was accidental.
Convenient. Oh, you didn't?
No.
Why wouldn't he hang on to it?
I think that it was to eliminate the future technology. That's what I think.
Oh, I guess that makes sense. Does it?
I think,
I don't know. They just went through the whole Rios thing and how much of a pain in the ass that was trying to get him back.
Right, but that was Rios losing his communicator. I mean, obviously nobody would know that Picard lost it or intentionally, but I do think that he was specifically throwing it away because they were catching him, because he was an alien. And so he was trying to eliminate the future technology. Although he should have kept on to it and then in the back seat just beamed back to the ship.
Exactly. You think you could push it and say, beam me out of here.
Right.
Right? So there's a moment where Rios brings the doctor, whose name I can never remember, back to his ship.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this moment, this kind of grandiose moment, where the music swells, and it's supposed to be this kind of cool moment in the movie where she realizes that he wasn't lying and that he's from the future, and he apes the line from Star Trek 4.
No, I'm from Chile. I only work in space. Yeah.
Right. And did they earn it?
No, they didn't. And it's kind of sad because it makes it more of just, like this is what people say in Star Trek. It's not a classic line from Star Trek 4 anymore. Like the moment he said it, I was like, oh, that's now a Star Trek thing.
Right. Yeah. And I wonder who catches it. The problem is the people who like this show, who truly like it, are they, can we call them Star Trek fans? Not because to each their own in terms of who likes what in a show. Fine. But in terms of this being a Star Trek show where they're getting all the details wrong.
Right.
Does it not deserve some sort of objective demerit? For that.
Right. Me personally, I would say yes. It's one of those things where it's kind of overall enjoyable, but it's just a little disappointing that they didn't go that extra mile in their research. Like going back to the first season where he says Data always wanted a daughter. It's like, no. If you watched that episode, Data says, I am letting her choose the gender. Like he had no opinion one way or the other. So to say he always wanted a daughter, he could say like having a daughter was very important to Data. Like, and that's true. But it's just that kind of thing. It's those little moments where if they had done just that little bit of extra research, they can tweak the dialogue to be accurate. Like none of it is so influential to the plot that it's like, oh my gosh, had we done that research, we'd have to change the entire series. Like it's just present these things in a more canonically accurate way.
Yeah, and the details matter to Star Trek fans.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So I guess that's why it's so infuriating, is that they don't seem to care about the things that Star Trek people care about.
Right. Yeah, and I think overall that is what makes it disappointing. Like they have these moments. If this guy does turn out to be a temporal officer, it's very cool. Like that they did that research into Voyager. And they had the NX-01 overhead of the Picard. It's like that's a nice little reference, but there are these things in the dialogue where it just misses the mark. And so to have these other scenes show like, okay, yeah, you do know this stuff about Star Trek, and then miss these other parts that most fans are aware of, because neither of us are super fans about the series and Star Trek in general, about the franchise, but we know these things. And so that means, that even the more diehard fans do. It just makes it disappointingly frustrating.
Yeah. Especially because I love the second episode so much.
Right? Well, yeah, and that's again, like speaking about the questions raised and the situations that have been presented, like I'm still here for it. We've got 3 episodes. I'm really excited to see how this thing turns out. But it's just so weird that the 7th episode before the end, they did the same thing with the first season too. They paused everything to go see Riker and Troy. But the 7th episode before the end, with only 3 episodes left, they decided to pause everything and go into Picard's psyche. Like, why?
Yeah, they're stretching this out. I like their little Easter egg actor casting stuff, where it's not somebody you would recognize necessarily, but they're there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
here's the next one. Hopefully something happens. I guess there's some stakes now because Picard has now been arrested, even though they just did this plot line with Rios. It's just happened, right?
Maybe. Yes, the inciting point is the same where he's been arrested, but I think that it's going to go in a completely different direction this time. Obviously it will.
Well, I hope he's a temporal whatever.
Yeah.
I hope that's a thing.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Hopefully.
All right, are we done?
I think so. Yeah.
I just realized that I wrote in my notes that Picard's dad looks a lot like Julian Bashir, but instead of Bashir, it autocorrected to Batshit.
Same difference.
I wonder when I wrote Batshit before into my computer.
Right.
And I said, save this spelling. This is the correct spelling.
Yeah. And your computer went, oh, okay. Probably uses that a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's like my last name. You know, like I will start to type it, and my phone is like, "Hey, is this what you're meaning to type?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And then it pulls it up, and it's like, Psh, "That's misspelled."
Yeah. Also, your name has the "j" sound with an "er" or the "g" sound with an "er."
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Okay. Does it trigger you? Does it make you mad like a tiger?
Nice. But still not enough. It's still.
Does it make you want to use a dagger?
That's double G. Different.
Are you filled with anger or hunger?
That starts on AN. Anytime AN, you can automatically do it. Yours doesn't do that.
Okay.
You should know these things, Jonathan.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of which, I have been Jonathan.
Oh, I guess we have to cut all that out because we use your last name.
No, we don't. We never did.
We didn't?
No.
Did I not say it?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, they have. It's like Wordle. They have enough information now. They could probably figure it out.
Probably. If you know what, honestly, if somebody will listen through all the episodes who doesn't know me to try to figure out who I am,
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I guess they deserve to know who you are.
Exactly. You've earned it.
And I've been Paul.
And this has been the Measure of an Episode, Star Trek Edition, Picard Edition, Season 2 Edition, Episode 7 Edition. But you already knew that?
But you already knew that. Huh?
Yeah,
that was foreshadowing. A little foreshadowing.
Oh, you think? All right.
I mean, it's just as capable or likely as anything else.
Actually, yes. That would be amazing. Because Cisco is so completely outside of the timeline. Like, what if he showed up in one of these last few episodes?
Makes sense. I mean, we just watched an episode. I think the last DS9 episode that he was stuck in space-time.
Right. Well, and the series ends with him becoming a prophet.
We haven't gotten there yet. Spoilers.
Oh, sorry. For a series that's at least 20 years old?
Right. If you haven't figured it out yet, I guess we can't do it. We've already signed off. I don't care. We'll do it next time.
Okay.
But I'm going to keep all that in.